Hello, everyone. This is Shellie Zeigler from the Mississippi Library Commission. I'm doing a presentation today about adult library programming. I will say that originally this presentation was going to be very different. It was going to be in person. Can you imagine that? Actually being around other people. And it was going to be 2.5 hours. So we were going to have a lot of demos and sharing, but, and it was originally supposed to take place in April, but then, hang on a second, I'm trying to figure out how to go to my next slide. Let's see. Sorry about this. Click on the bottom arrow. Oh, here we go. Okay, so technical difficulties. So then this happened and pretty much changed the whole dynamics of presentations and librarianship overall. So we've had to adapt, and we're all very adaptable. So that's why this presentation has become a webinar of sorts. So programming now, it's all virtual programming. And it definitely has its challenges, but like I said, we're all very adaptable, and I know everyone is doing the best they can and doing a great job with that. So what we'll be focusing on in this webinar is we'll be talking about components of effective adult programming. We'll be talking about senior programming, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. We'll be giving examples of current popular adult programs and how to best advertise your virtual programming. So, what makes a good adult program? That is the question. Here are some aspects of effective adult programming. You want programs that make a lasting and meaningful impact on your community. What I mean by that is, what are some of the values and activities that are important to your community? Is it sports? Is it arts? I mean, it could be just about anything, but that's something to first consider. You want to offer programs that your community wants. So you can get, I think it's good to get input and suggestions from patrons about programs that they like. And I know a lot of public libraries in the state will have an area either on their website or in their library where people can put in suggestions for programs that they would like to see. And offering programs that will be watched and virtually attended by your patrons. So you also want to have like fun programs that people actually are interested in. One thing I wanted to say though about listening to your patrons' suggestions, if that happens, I've heard this a lot from a lot of libraries, is we all know that just because they ask for something doesn't mean that they'll necessarily attend. I've heard lots of horror stories, and I experienced many when I was working in a public library, where you would have, I remember having parents ask for a particular program for their kids or their teens, and then I would have that program and I would get virtually no one attending. So it's definitely a paradox. You want to listen to your patrons, but you want to make sure that it's a program that will be universally accepted and people will be interested in it. Let's see. Oh, I also want to say, I have several things I want to say on this slide. Do not be afraid to, and I say this a lot in my programming presentations, but I feel like it needs to be said. Do not be afraid to what I call beg, borrow, and steal virtual programs from other branches, either in your system or other library systems, either in this state or out of state. I know that librarians at large, we are a very collaborative group and we like to help, and I think it's also a great compliment when someone borrows a program that you've done and they do it at their library. But also remember that just because a program works at one branch or one system, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be successful for you. Your community is different, your patrons are different. I always like to say that trial and error equals success. You have to fail sometimes in order to succeed. So let's talk about examples of virtual library programs. And if you can't tell already, this presentation is all about virtual programming. I would normally talk about passive programs versus active programs, but in our day and age of the coronavirus, that's not what we're dealing with. So I picked this photo because I just think it's really cute. I just wanted to say this because it looks like a Zoom call, sort of. I don't know, I thought was neat. So one of the programs that I think would be cool, and I've seen other libraries do across the nation, it's called Meet a New Hobby. So a lot of people are taking up new hobbies during this time. A lot of people are at home more. I will say just personally that when I was working from home for a while, that I took up a new hobby. I had not done jigsaw puzzles for about 800 years. And a friend of mine gave me one and I did it and I became obsessed with jigsaw puzzles. And even though I'm back at work now, I am still doing my jigsaw puzzles. So I think the jigsaw puzzle sort of saved my life and my sanity while I was being quarantined. So just a side note there. But so what I mean is, I think everyone's looking for some hobbies to do. So I've talked about cooking demos before. This would be a great time to incorporate presenters, whether it be your staff, your community, friends of the library members, your diehard patrons. This would be a good time to get them involved. And doing it in a virtual setting, you can have them present, for example, a cooking demo from their home. And that way there would be no risk of people getting in the same room and whatnot. And I think you might have more people willing to do it from their home. So think about who your presenters could be. You could also do something where you demonstrate different card games, like Gin Rummy. I just put this on here just for example, because I really like these ones. Hearts and Euchre. Now I'm going to say a lot of people in the South, and I'm generalizing, have not heard of the game Euchre, but I'm from the Midwest and it is like the game. So it might be cool to teach Euchre. It's not terribly difficult to learn. So that would be kind of cool to do a virtual programming where you demonstrate how to do a card game. And I know when I was quarantined at home, me and my partner, we played a lot of Trivial Pursuit. So people are doing things that they would not normally do because they're, I don't want to say forced, but they're quarantined together and you're looking for things to pass the time. So a card game would be a good meet a new hobby program. And of course, always knitting and crocheting. And that, I'm sure you've got patrons who are just experts at this. So you could have a very beginner's course on how to make a simple knit stitch. and crocheting. I don't crochet, so I don't really know what that's called, the stitch. But that would be, I think that would be well attended. And photography. I see a lot on Instagram, and mainly Instagram, not so much Facebook or Twitter, but people are taking more photographs of nature and things that, especially things that they've baked and cooked, because people are doing that more now that they're at home. So I think people are looking for how to make things look the prettiest, you know, how to take a picture of those new flowers you planted. So I think that might be cool to have a photography course for beginners on how to take great photos. Another one, and this is also near and dear to my heart, because I've got a sweet little weenie dog at home, is how to make your own pet first aid kit. You could easily partner with your local veterinarian for this. And they could, like I said, do a virtual program where they talk about what items could be in a kit. I think having a disaster kit would be good, where you have like extra food, if they're on any meds, extra medicine. And I put a link on here of a resource that has a checklist of pet first aid supplies. You don't have to have a veterinarian do this. You could have just one of your own staff members do this, but I think it might be cool to partner with a vet, and I think a lot of them would like to be helping their community during this time. Also, I want to say that I'm going to include a Word document of all of the links in this presentation and all the resources I talk about. So you'll be getting that when you get this sent out to you. Okay. And I also just love that photo of all those little cute animals. Okay, another topic that's very popular these days is mindfulness. And when I hear that word, I'm really not sure what it means. The first thing I think of is yoga for some reason, but really it's just a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensation used as a therapeutic technique. I don't know where I got that definition, but I liked it. So it could really encompass a lot of things. What I think of it as after reading that is basically just being in the state and the time that you're in and finding some peace and not worrying about the future or thinking about the past. And also being aware of what's going on inside of your body and mind, as far as if you're feeling anxious for some reason, and finding a way to basically get out of your own head from speculating on, oh, this horrible thing or what we're going through, and just finding some calmness. So in practice, some of those things for a virtual program could be a tutorial on meditation. I do know that there was a library system that had been, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they had someone who was, I'm gonna say, an expert on meditation come and do a virtual presentation on how to do that. And it doesn't have to be, in depth or whatnot. It could just be how to do simple meditation just to calm your mind. Another thing I like to talk about is art. Like just basically how to do maybe simple art projects to just find some just peace and clarity and be where you are. When I think of this for adults, one of the things I've seen during quarantine, I saw a lot of posts on Facebook about people doing the adult coloring sheets, which I will say I did one or two myself during quarantine. So that would be helpful. I did include yoga because that is the first thing I think of when I think of mindfulness. Maybe some simple yoga poses. A lot of times you get yoga interlaced with meditation. And then I also included origami here, because origami is where you really have to concentrate on that piece of paper and making that little, I always think of birds because that's all I ever see in origami, but I know there's other things you make. But so it requires concentration, and I think with that concentration comes a peacefulness. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about grab and go bags for adults, but these things could be incorporated into your grab and go bags for adults. They're not just for summer reading, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But you could have in your grab and go for adults maybe some sheets, tips on meditation. You can include some adult coloring sheets. Later on at the end, I have in my resource page, I have a link for adult coloring sheets, but they're very easy to find. You can even include some origami paper. You can really use any paper for that, but there is some really cute origami paper out there, and some instructions on how to do a certain animal for origami, and also instructions on how to do simple yoga. So those are some things I thought were kind of cool for mindfulness. Oh, here we go. Grab and go, not just for kids. So as previously mentioned, grab and go, what I'm hearing is that it's being used for summer reading, which is fabulous, but it can also be used for not just adult summer reading, but even into the fall, depending on what happens in this world. If we're still doing grab and go, which I kind of feel like we will be, you can incorporate it for adults with, if you're going to be having a book club, which I'll talk about later, you could have those questions and points to ponder while they're reading the book. You could have the adult coloring sheets, as I stated before, and you could have some crafts and supplies. So you could, for example, have a virtual origami how-to program, and then you hand out these supplies for it, and then the person, when they log into your program, whether it be on Zoom or something else, they have the supplies for the craft that you're doing. Something I thought of that I think might be kind of neat is also, if you, in your grab and go kits for adults, if you could put in there just randomly or by request, depending on how you want to do it, books that you would normally sell in your friend's book sale. I know that with libraries being closed for a while, and you're just now starting to offer curbside service and things of that nature, you probably have a lot of books in your book sale, and most libraries are not taking donations at this time, which I highly recommend you do not. But you could also just start, just throw in a couple of paperback books in there, and even if the person doesn't like them and it's not their genre, they could pass them on to somebody else. So I just thought that was a neat way to kind of share your book sale. Granted, you're not making any money from it, but you are helping people, and that's what we are here for. So, okay, I also want to talk about these embroidery kits. You're thinking, I don't know, you're probably saying, I don't know anything about these embroidery kits. Well, you don't, because they're brand new. It's something that MLC is offering. They are available for checkout. We have 6 kits with 5 packages of materials in each kit. So we have a total of 30 kits, but they come in packages of 6. They include all the materials needed to make this specific design. All the kits are the same design. They are available on a first come, first serve basis. And your contact to request these kits is Charlie Simpkins, and I have included his email here. You just give him a little email, and I will say this, you can ask for more than one kit. So let's say you want to offer it to 10 patrons. You would ask for 2 kits. But we only have 6. So first come, first serve. And this isn't a kit where, this is a kit we're giving you. You don't, obviously you're not going to give it back to us because it's a one and done type thing. Only one person can embroider this pattern. So, but it's something that we purchased and we thought it would be great to offer this to libraries. So this could be a great adult program as well. I'm a little envious because I would like to do one of these kits, but we're going to give them out to libraries. All right, we're going to talk about the book clubs because that's something that a lot of libraries do, and it's kind of different in the virtual world, but you can still offer your book clubs. I attended a book club for, well, it was more like an author talk about a book, but it was for the Central Mississippi Regional Library System, and we had an author come on, and then we all asked questions, and it went really well. It was done in Zoom, but there's several different virtual forums. Zoom tends to be the most popular. There's also Google Hangouts. There's Skype. There's something called, which I've never used, but it's called GoToMeeting. And then there's also just Facebook Messenger rooms, which I see more people using now. You could also do a book club where it's not happening live. There's a better word for this, but I can't think of it. But basically, it's where you just have basically a Facebook post, and then people go on there and comment about the book and ask questions or whatnot. So it's not happening in real time, but it's a way to do a book club without having to worry about having a virtual forum, if that makes sense. There is no one correct way to handle a book club. Please remember that. Everyone is going to do, as I always say, the best they can with what they have. So just do what you can and what works for your community and your patrons. I do have on here social distancing book club. Some libraries are going to be opening up to the public soon in a limited capacity. You could possibly think about having a small book club where you are all socially distancing yourself and wearing masks. I'm not sure how that would really, I think that's something you might want to think about in the future a little bit. But you can do in-person book clubs, but I would definitely think about the health ramifications of getting together, even if you are socially distancing. I have on here a topic called Fit Lit. It's something I saw they were doing at a library in Indianapolis, and it's where people are, they're getting together, and they're getting together physically, but they are socially distancing themselves, and they're like walking. So you walk and talk about the book. I love this as a concept in general. I think it would, well, with the Mississippi heat, it might not be a good time to do it in the summer, but you might want to think about doing that in the fall when we have more bearable temperatures. So, and you would have people, distancing themselves, and then you get in a little exercise too. So, Fit Lit, think about it. I also have to plug, of course, the Library Commission's Book Club in a Box kits. I did include the link here for that, where you can see all the books that we offer in our kits. I will also have that in the Word document as well. But just know that in case you don't know, but I talk about it a lot whenever I do presentations, we have book clubs in a box. They check out for 3 months. There's 10 copies of one book and questions to discuss. And let's see, I'm trying to look at here. Oh, and we have all types of books. We have graphic novels, we have YA novels, we have novels from the Great American Read. I don't know if you all remember when PBS did that. It was fabulous. So we have some books from there. We just have a lot of diverse books to choose from. So you might want to look into that, and that will save you some money. We're all about saving money. And again, you would contact Charlie Simpkins about those books. Okay. I hate that I can't like take questions. I miss that about being able to do this in person, and also hearing your stories about what's working for your libraries and what isn't. I miss it. Okay, the Mississippi Humanities Speakers Bureau. I want to talk about this for a minute because you might have seen that the Library Commission has hosted one for the last 2 Fridays. I have attended both of them, and they are excellent. On June 5th, we hosted one that was called Ain't That America, about the rise and fall of the rural farmer. It was so fascinating. I recommend you go back and see that. You can watch it. You can find it. I think you find the link on our Facebook page. Then we did one last Friday on Margaret Walker and the Black Arts Movement, and it was really, really good. You can host these speakers virtually yourself, and MLC can assist you in hosting, and we can also assist you in filling out the brief application to have one of these virtual lectures. So you could do that, and that would be a great adult program. I have the link here for those lectures, and again, I'll put that in the Word document. But I just think this is something that it's a resource that you really should take advantage of. Let's see. All right, now we're going to go on to senior programming. I put obstacles up here just because I think we do need to talk about some obstacles to overcome when it comes to senior programming. Virtual attendance is what you're relying on right now, and a lot of people mistakenly believe that people 65 and older are not going to attend a virtual program. I just want to warn you against, don't pigeonhole older patrons. A lot of them are super tech savvy. Granted, a lot of them aren't, but don't assume just because you want to do a senior program and you have to do it virtually at this time that it won't go well because you won't get attendance. I just don't like to see people 65 and older being stereotyped in that manner. They are, senior programming is often overlooked, but I would like to say that adults 65 and older in Mississippi comprise about 16% of the population. And that's from the last census, so that number has probably increased, that percentage has probably increased. But yes, I understand that programming was a lot easier back when we did it in person, and there will be a time when we will be doing them in person, but we have to adapt now to the world around us. Also, I want to say that America's older adults, again, they're stereotyped to be the same type of person. They are just as diverse as the rest of the population. They differ by age. They differ by their education, their life experience, their sexual orientation, health, geographic location, and income. So don't think that you can't do a program just because you think, well, they're not going to have access to the internet, or their life experience is not going to make them interested in this topic. Try to remember that people that are 65 and older are pretty much just like the rest of the population. So I'll stop going on about that. I don't know, get off my soapbox. Here are some ideas for senior programming. I put on here retirement planning. That's not something that everyone is going to be into, because some people at 65 are retired. Some are planning to retire. Some aren't planning to retire for a long time. So you just don't know. But I think it is a good idea to offer that. There's a website called notjustbingo.com. It's a website and it's also a Facebook page. I will tell you this, it is aimed at individuals in assisted living facilities and their activity directors, but don't let that keep you from looking at them as a resource, because they've got some really good ideas on there for senior programming in general. So please check that out. I saw this the other day. I don't know where. It was some resource page about the quarantine pen pal program or campaign. And I just thought that would be really cool. Not necessarily just for seniors. I think this would be cool for young adults as well. First of all, it would, with young adults, it would get them to actually handwrite and not text or, post online. But I thought that would be cool if you had a pen pal exchange program. And those would be such fascinating historical documents as well of what people are going through during this pandemic. So that might be something that you consider to see if people are interested, and you could pair them up with someone else. I don't know. I just think that's neat. I just want to talk about that. Uber Conference. I've read about Uber Conference recently. And if you do think you have people that are 65 and older who might not be able to attend virtual programming due to a technological barrier, the Uber Conference offers call-in conferencing. So that might be something you want to look at. Let's see. I put on here to choose a topic from the Mississippi Humanities Speaker Bureau that would be of interest to those 65 and older. And let me tell you, there's a lot to choose from, and I can't think of any of them that really wouldn't be of interest to those 65 and older. But you might want to think about that. Something really neat that I came across is how it was about making a junk mail journal. So in your snail mail, you get a lot of, at least I do, I still get a lot of junk mail. But this is a way where you take those like envelopes and papers from your junk mail, and you actually make it into like a notebook. And there's a couple of links here I put on here about how to make a junk mail journal. This is good because you're recycling, you're reusing materials, you're repurposing materials. This would also be fun for young adults, I think. But I don't know, I just think that was kind of cool. And that was something I hadn't heard of for a while. Okay, I cannot not talk about the Talking Book and Braille services. Now, this is not just for seniors, those 65 and older. The Talking Book and Braille services offers a wide range of popular fiction and nonfiction titles for adults, teens, and children, whether it be via the audiobook cartridges. They can download books onto their iPad, their cell phone, and that's through a service called Bard, which is Braille and audio reading download. They offer Braille materials and large print materials. and it's a free service, and they're all shipped right to their home. If you would like Mary Rogers Bill, who is the director of the Talking Book and Braille Services, I did check with her before I threw her information out here and offered her up. If you would like a virtual program from the TVS department where they could talk a little bit more about what it takes to become a Talking Book and Braille Services patron, she would be glad to work with you on that. I've included her phone number and her email address, and then I also included a link to the Library Commission's page on Talking Book and Braille Services. So that info. Okay, so let's talk about marketing your programs. Well, marketing virtual programming is not easy. And it's going, I don't know if I should say this, but I'll say it. I think that it might be difficult at first to get people attend virtual programming, but I think as it slowly becomes more of the norm for libraries, you'll start to see more people attending. So you can advertise, of course, via your social media platforms, your web page. Another good place to advertise is put flyers into those grab and go bags. So this applies to summer reading as well. When you're handing out those summer reading grab and go bags, put in there a flyer about when you're going to be having your virtual summer reading programming. The grab and go bags that you have for adults that I've spoken about, put flyers in there as well. And then when people are coming to do their curbside pickup, I've done it a couple times with my local library. They typically have the books or the materials in bags. Go ahead and give them a flyer too. You can't push the information too much, I think. But these are just some ways that I thought would be helpful to market your program. I know some people still put things in their local newspaper. I think people do still read newspapers, maybe not as much as they used to, sadly, but don't forget that as well, because a lot of your newspapers will put in your information about libraries and library programming for free. So remember that. So here are some programming resources that I've talked about during this presentation. Also some that I have not, but again, all of these resources will be included in a Word document that will be sent out to you all. So I think I talked about all of these virtual museum tours. That's kind of something cool that I came across. Let's see, and here's some more resources. I encourage you, if you are on Facebook or your library is on Facebook, to join the Mississippi Library Support and Resources page. I think it's a great way for us to share ideas and a good place to, when I talk about beg, borrow, and steal. Let's see, I gave you a link to adult coloring pages, easy origami. I really love, and I think a lot of adults my age, maybe it's just because we've got this thing about old books, but there's a link here to crafts from old books that I think would be neat. And again, I've included the Talking Book and Braille Services. And then there's another Facebook group called the Programming Librarian Interest Group. That I also get a lot of great ideas from as well. So again, I will have these included in a separate document, but I did want to include them here. So that is it. I know this is a much shorter presentation than I had originally planned when I was working on it for April, but you know, we do have to adjust to the times. If you have any questions for me, or if you want me to clarify where I got certain information, or just have any comments or questions whatsoever. I'm always here to help in any way that I can. Here is my phone number and then my email. So thank you all for taking time to come to this presentation. I hope it's helpful. I hope you get at least one great idea from this, and just keep on keeping on. All right, you guys have a great day.